Welcome to Module 1, Introduction to Accounting. And the objectives of this module is to explain the importance of accounting for managers, to distinguish between the different types of accounting, to look at various types of accounting entities, identify the regulatory organizations who make up all these accounting rules, to identify and define the various underlying accounting concepts, to look at generally accepted accounting principles and what that means, and to look at IFRS, which stands for International Financial Reporting Standards, and how that impacts on cooperatives. So for Module 1, the module provides a review of the accounting systems and the types of accounting. So there's three basic types of accounting. Financial accounting, which are your year-end financial statements, which are prepared more for the external user. And in the case of cooperatives, for members, for regulators, in situations where there are regulators for credit unions. So there's the financial, and that's prepared after the fact. I mean, it's after the year it's over. It's an historical picture of the company's performance in the past fiscal year. Managerial accounting, these are reports that are prepared sometimes weekly, monthly, quarterly, however often the organization feels they need that information. But it's really to provide management with information on a timely basis. So you don't want to wait to the end of the year to find out, you're way over budget. So if you monitor the organization's performance monthly at a minimum, then you're in a better position to take corrective action. So, it's important to have this information. So in terms of the type of information that you see internally, it's the typical one would be your budget versus actual report, and that would highlight why the variances have occurred, why you're over or under budget on certain accounts. The third type of reporting is taxation, which is a highly specialized area. We don't get into taxation very in depth in this course because it varies by jurisdiction. Just for example, in Canada, we have federal taxation, which is obviously the same all across the country, but then each province and territory, so all 12 jurisdictions, have their own, individual tax structures. Another part of this module is to really explain more in depth the nature of the cooperative business structure. And we do that by comparing a cooperative to a not-for-profit, to say public sector, so you can see the differences in it. And there's a really neat table in the notes, in the lecture notes, that really nicely compares the different types of business structures and compares that to co-op. So it looks at how the organizations differ in terms of ownership, how the directors are appointed, voting, and sharing in the surplus. So when we look at cooperatives, they don't really neatly fit into one particular category. Some co-ops are more, they're not totally profit-oriented, but they definitely have to make enough money to be sustainable. A lot of cooperatives would fall into that category. Others are strictly in the not-for-profit sector. But overall, I would say that cooperatives are more of a hybrid. They're not totally for-profit, but they're not totally not-for-profit. So they fall into this hybrid category with other organizations such as social enterprises and trading charities, for example. So probably one of the most unique features of the cooperative business structure is member equity. Certainly, member equity is a vehicle for gaining membership rights and the benefits associated with being a member and transacting as a member with the cooperative. And it's one form of member owner capital. There's economic benefits associated with member participation, and of course it's based on the economic benefit is based on the fact that you're a member, not necessarily on the number of shares held. And that's a big distinguishing feature between a cooperative and a commercial for-profit business enterprise. Then of course there's redeemability of shares and voting rights based on membership rather than individual shares. And again, that's another key difference between a cooperative and a commercial enterprise. And of course, the net assets are held in common and with limited residual rights. So you might wonder how all of these different standards for accounting are established. So basically, there's a variety of organizations that are involved in setting standards. So in Canada, we have CPA Canada, and they set the accounting standards for private enterprise. In the U.S., you have FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, which would set standards for U.S. companies. In the U.K., their standard setter is known as the Financial Reporting Council. Overall, these organizations do a fabulous job with setting standards, with one exception. They don't really take into consideration some of the unique structural differences of a co-op versus a business or a not-for-profit. So there's not a lot of consultation, and as a result, they don't really understand the unique needs. Now, in addition to the country-specific standards, and I've just listed 3 countries, but obviously every country would have their own accounting standards. But in addition to that, on an international basis, there are standards known as International Financial Reporting Standards. We all call it IFRS. And the idea with IFRS is that by adopting these international standards, it puts every company on an equal footing, that they can be compared. And this is important for investors, for companies that are listed on the stock exchange and they're, raising capital. It's not all that applicable for cooperatives because they're not usually raising funds in the capital markets. They're not listed on exchanges, so you don't have that same need for international comparability. But there are some that are required to adopt IFRS. So in Canada, for example, if you're publicly accountable, so if you're managing money on behalf of others, which the credit unions would be doing, then you are required to adopt IFRS. And there's, pros and cons with IFRS. Some organizations that are not required to adopt it do it anyway, but they tend to be larger cooperatives. There's not a lot of need to really do it if you're not operating internationally. So in addition to the formal legal standard setters in each country and then the IFRS internationally, there's also resources to provide guidance on various reporting issues. So first of all, of course, there's the CARC here at St. Mary's, and we've done quite a bit of research and provided, guidance on various reporting issues. And we have a series of international statements of recommended practice. We call them ISORPs, and you can see those on our website. So a lot of cooperatives and credit unions don't really know about CARC and the online resources we have there. So I encourage you to let your CFO know about our organization. And we often work with others to approach the standard setters to get them to take our needs into account as cooperatives. So we are currently working with folks in the UK to come up with some accounting standards and reporting guidelines for cooperatives there. So the Statement of Recommended Practice, SORP. So what we're doing, we're working with Co-ops UK, which is the industry association there, and they represent many co-ops in the country. And we also have an international committee comprised of myself and another one of your instructors in this program, Maureen McCulloch, and some other individuals as well, and all UK except for me. And we're working to come up with some accounting and reporting standards for the UK. So what we're trying to do here is, if we can get the standard setters in the UK to adopt cooperative specific guidance, then it will be much easier to get Canada, the US, and other countries to jump on board. You just have to get, I think, one major country in the G7 to buy into this. And we started with the UK because they already have another set of standards for charities. So they've already demonstrated that they're willing to look at individual situations, and that's why we think they might be open to the idea of doing something for cooperatives. And, so the idea is start with the UK and then, hopefully expand it globally. And we have the support of the International Cooperative Alliance for this effort because, they see the merit in this project as well. So in addition to CEARC and the work that we're doing with folks in the UK, we also publish a journal, the International Journal of Cooperative Accounting and Management. It's located here, and I'm the editor-in-chief. And you'll be pleased to know that every year I try to get instructors to recommend some of the capstone papers that are really good, and that would fit the journal in terms of the topic of accounting or management. And so you'll see papers in this journal that are based on graduates' capstone papers. So if you have an interest in publishing your paper, by all means get in touch with me at the end of the program. It's kind of nice to put on your resume that you're a published author. In the U.S., there's the National Society of Accountants for Cooperatives, and they also have a publication, The Cooperative Accountant. That's their journal, which is, you'll see things throughout the program taken from that journal as well. And then there's the UK Society for Cooperative Studies, and they focus on all aspects of cooperatives, not just accounting. They look at management and, it could be marketing, any topic really. And they host seminars and conferences, and they also have a journal, which is the Journal of Cooperative Studies. And again, you'll see that reference throughout the course. I've taken papers from that journal to be used as your readings. So finally, there's the Living Lab for this, and you can use your own co-op or another co-op. So this varies by assignment, but for this one, I'll leave it open. And the detailed discussion questions are, of course, listed on Brightspace, but basically, I'm looking for a discussion on the merits of industry-specific standards versus adopting regular standards for cooperatives. And also looking at who you should compare with. Is it important to compare with other cooperatives in your sector, or maybe all businesses in your sector, whether they're cooperative or not. So that's at a high level what this assignment is about. So make sure you answer both questions and respond to a minimum of one other posting. So that concludes the lecture on Module 1.